Yeah, it's been a good week in terms of having the opportunity in a more natural surround and time frame to prepare for a game again after the events of last week and the three games. Obviously, the Vancouver trip early on in that week was forgotten about, but a hell of a long trip. But also a very, very good week. The guys looking a particularly bright and buoyant mood, as everyone might well imagine. And I think thoroughly looking forward to playing a talented and obviously very, very competitive game against Galaxy at the weekend.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with Tim Sullivan, then go to Claudio Villalobos. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Gary. Continued health updates here. What's the latest on especially Ake?
He's had his first real look at activity this week. I'll make a decision tomorrow as to whether or not he'll be in the 20, but he's getting very, very close to it now, or certainly being available for that. So yeah, I mean, we're currently in, I don't want to sort of tempt fate here, but we're in as good a shape as we've been for a long time in terms of bodies being healthy.
Go ahead, Claudio.
Thank you, Matt. Gary, as the team is riding this high wave of good results, good performances, especially by some individuals, how hard is it becoming for you to actually come up with the 11th now that everybody seems to be motivated to play?
Yeah, a lot more difficult for sure. If you look at the way that the group was rotated last week because of the three games in a short period of time, it certainly gave me a lot more scope to be moving players and asking, individuals to get a job done or to be part of whatever that competitive group was. Yes, really challenging. There's a lot of good form. There's a lot of confidence. There are a lot of players that are unhappy and disappointed when they're not in and around the starting 11 now, and rightly so. But that breeds competition. It breeds an edge to the players that are going to start the game, because they know if they can do well, there's probably a better than average chance that they might well be chosen for the next game. And we're getting to that point in the season where, of course, I want to try and be thinking about the best group, the best 11 to go out and to maybe get a job done on a regular basis. But I think there will be certain positions that could be rotated, knowing that we have such good strength in those particular areas. Obviously, the midfield being one of them.
Thank you, Coach. We'll swing it back over to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Gary, when you look back to the previous game against LA Galaxy, what lessons do you take from that game that you can use to find success this weekend?
I mean, if I cast my mind back, it was the 8th game on a marathon road stint that we'd had. We played San Jose the weekend before on the West Coast. We came back. I think we had 3 or 4 days in market, and then we went again. Quite honestly, I'm not sure some of the players knew what day of the week it was in terms of time zones and changes, and it was a very, very difficult time. They, on the evening, dominated the ball, and if I remember rightly, we found life very, very difficult there and conceded late. Showed a lot of guile, a lot of determination and discipline, but in the end it wasn't quite enough to get anything out of the game. I think we're going to see a very different game come the weekend. We're in a better place. I think they are. They've added a couple of bodies that look very talented and have given them a different dimension and a different look in certain aspects. And they're certainly in a reasonable run, and know that in this running now, I think they've got 6 games left, 2 in hand on us. It's a pivotal time for them as well. So I'm expecting a far more aggressive display from my group, and I would think that they're coming to get maximum points out of the game given the position they're in.
We'll swing it back over to Claudio. Go ahead, Claudio.
Thank you again, Matt. Gary, I'm not sure if you ever run into a situation when you had a must-win game and a player of yours made a decision like Chicharito made on that penalty kick last weekend. I mean, I just want to kind of go through that and see if you ever had that kind of experience and what, as a coach, what you guys feel about a decision like that from a player, especially in a game that they need to win. At the same time, what does it cause on a player, like especially a Chicharito, which is a great scorer, a great player, when he makes a mistake like that, does that give him an extra boost for the next game?
Well, look, first and foremost, you know, that's somebody else's problem, not mine. You know, I can only give you my opinion. He's a very, very experienced individual, and for whatever reason, he chose to do what he did. And that's as simple as it gets from me. I'm sure they've had a discussion about that, and they'll move on. Will it give him more inspiration? I'm not sure. I think he looks a very driven individual anyway. Always looks like he's got a point to prove, and he's a very, very good goal scorer. He's proven that over his career. So I'm not sure it gives him any more incentive to do well. Maybe part of him thinks, you know, I've let the group down a little bit, but I'm sure there have been plenty of occasions where he's got the group out of quite a lot of trouble as well, so it evens itself out a little bit. As far as situations like that myself, I've never been in that situation. I've tried to make it very, very clear to any individual that I have taken penalties as to what my expectations are and would be. So I've never run into that situation.
Next, we'll go to Ben Wright to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, you talked a little bit about just kind of what you expect from LA, but I'm wondering, it feels like you guys are in a little bit of a different position now. Earlier in the year, you were going on the road a lot against teams who were above you in the table and really needed those points, and it feels like it's flipped a little bit now with you guys at home and LA really pushing for points. Not that it's going to change your approach to the game, but how do you expect that to have an impact just on how things play out on the field and how LA approaches this?
Well, I think fundamentally there were some things that went on in that game that affected the way we could play or impact the game, and they took full advantage of it. They played with a very high line. They suffocated us. We couldn't get out. Second half especially, I think we played the majority of the game in our half of the field. So they did a good job. But there were many, many reasons why we ended up in that position, and a lot of it was down to road fatigue and general fatigue of going into away environments and having to perform. At home, we've shown a very different edge to us, especially in the last 4 games. The guys are confident. I think we've added a couple of dimensions to our group that will affect them in a different way. And generally, as you've pointed out, we're in a very different spot now. You know, we're at the real business end of the season. It affects teams and players in a different way. I think you've seen from our group that, you know, they've been able to deal with a little bit of pressure. They've been able to turn results their way in some of the most difficult circumstances, especially with some tough performances at home. And I think we've found a nice vein of creation and more importantly, scoring. And, you know, that confidence and belief does the world of good for any team. Now, it won't win the game on its own, but what it does do is enable the players to play with a little bit more enthusiasm and freedom, and they're not so tight and stressed in the way that they go about their business. And for me, that will be a determining factor in whatever team are able to turn this result their way. Can they compose themselves and make the most of, I would think, few situations again that are going to turn the game?
Thank you, Coach. We'll go back to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, we've talked obviously a lot over not just this season but last year as well, how important Hani is to your team, how important his goal scoring is.
Is there a point where you feel like you need to get, I guess, more help for him? I know you've had other guys score a little bit in recent weeks. Is there a point where you feel like you need to get more help for him on the scoring side of things? And then, excuse me, kind of related, what are some of the things that you get out of a striker who is not scoring that allows you to have confidence in whether it's, CJ or Teal or whomever?
Yeah, I mean, look, we have added players that have not necessarily, hit the headlines with their goal scoring, but, make no mistake, someone like Jacob has had a huge impact on our group. One, because of the way that he plays and the way that he stretches the game out, his willingness to run in behind constantly is a thorn in any defender's side. And he scored 2 very important goals for us. On the other side of the field, we've added more of a creator in Shaq, but he gives us a dimension that we were missing, which is a threat beyond, the ability to outpace opposing defenders, time his movements into aggressive areas. And I think that in general has given us a much, much better platform to play, to express ourselves, and to manage the game. It's opened the field up for guys like Hanny, Randall, the midfield boys to get on the ball and be a little bit more expressive. As far as, finding, maybe a more consistent source of goals, let's not forget Teal had scored 4 and 4 before he got injured. I felt as though we were moving in the right direction there, and unfortunately we lost him for what was, 3-4 games, whatever it was. So, fingers crossed, we can get him back to full pace quickly and into that sort of vein again. But the bottom line is for forwards, they base their world on confidence. There's no player on the field more so that when they're feeling a tad anxious and stressed about getting on the score sheet, they snatch at chances rather than, comfortably moving on to those opportunities and being confident in what they're going to produce. Suddenly they're second guessing, is it a volley? Is it a power shot? Is it a header? Should I be going near post? And they don't have time to question those things. It's instinctive. And when they're in the right place, they're making good choices and they're getting on the score sheet. And I've no doubt CJ's turned up in some good spots and he's been millimetres away from getting himself back in the groove, but it hasn't happened. We're fortunate that we've been able to keep the momentum of games and wins going. But I've no doubt, he will have seen these periods before, as all of the forwards will have in our group, and they've come through them before. So they'll do it again, I've no doubt.
Thank you, Coach. We'll wrap up today's session with Gary Smith, Claudio Villalobos. Go ahead, Claudio.
Gary, with the fact that Hanny has taken over the first place and the role as the most valuable player, has there been any need on the team, for you and the guys to discuss over the team goals on top of instead of the what it might be a very nice accomplishment for him and even for the team as a most valuable player?
Well, the team goals stay the same. Get in the playoffs, win the cup. It's that straightforward. So, that doesn't change at all. I think what we've seen over the course of the season is a couple of things with the way that the group was set up to begin with, away from home. If you remember rightly, I think Hanny came under a little bit of pressure and was criticised for his slow start. Not many people taking into consideration 8 games on the road and the tough nature of that. But what we've now seen is not only him find form and continue to be the focal point of the group, but I think we've added a couple of players, as I've already mentioned, that have helped the process of us becoming a more aggressive, proactive group, positive group. And we're seeing the reward for that in certainly in the last 4 games. But I think we've also seen the team really rally round Hanny. We had, of course, Dax's comments after, I think it was it the Dallas game, which was great. I mean, look, these guys are a really tight-knit group. They get on great. They work tremendously hard for each other. And I think they can all see the opportunity here for Hanny. And they also feel that I think he missed out and probably shouldn't have done last year. So there's a huge amount of support for him personally. And this is all, wrapped around the same achievements and successes and opportunities for the group. If Hanny does well, we do well. We do well, Hanny does well. And it's all one in the same thing. Everyone's in support of each other, and hopefully that really pushes us towards where we want to be, which is above the line and competing for silverware again.
Shaq, Matt just mentioned how well you've been playing lately. What did it take for you to get acclimated? Obviously, the team didn't perform very well for your first few games. You guys are playing super well now. What did it take for you to get acclimated, and how comfortable are you feeling now?
Yeah, I just think with the passing of time, obviously, you just get more comfortable with the guys, more comfortable with the team. Not to say that we were performing, badly the first couple of games, but I think, it's a few actions here, a few calls here, a few details here kind of, let the game kind of get away with us. But yeah, obviously I'm feeling good right now, feeling good with the team. I feel acclimated, and just trying to keep it going.
Go ahead, Claudio.
Shaq, maybe a couple of questions on one. On that particular play of the game, when you assist Honey in such a wonderful way for the goal, going back to the play, when Dave clears inside the box, and then even before Dax makes a wonderful pass, you were ready to run about 10, 15 yards. I mean, is that what, I was looking at it, does it happen by design that you will do that for a counter attack, or how does it work? And at the same time, once you are in the 18 back on the other side of the field, does it ever close your mind for you to take a shot, or you were always thinking about assisting Honey?
Yeah, so on that play, I saw Dave clear it, and I saw it was coming right to Dax, and I knew pretty sure he had time to turn, and I just kind of, my instinct kind of, took over. So I knew he was going to turn, and all I needed was, a good ball. And actually, my whole mind and my whole thought process in that play was to shoot, actually. But the way the defenders worked, so the one who was chasing me, I think he wanted to kind of chase me and get to me, but I guess the other defender decided to come to me instead, and it kind of just opened up for Hani. So, but yeah, I wanted to shoot, but the right play was to give it to Hani. So I think it worked out. It worked out good.
Go ahead, Tim.
When you look at kind of your hopes to make the World Cup this November, how do you feel that coming to Nashville, was in the plans, and how do you feel that it's worked out for you so far? And have you talked to USSF about kind of where you stand now that you're with Nashville?
Yeah, I think it was a good move. Obviously, coming back and just feeling important again, in a team, and and being back in the States where obviously, like you said, USF can talk to me more, can be at the games more, can kind of have me a little bit closer. So it's been good dialogue so far. I think the main thing for me is just to keep it going, take it game by game, and just give myself a chance to kind of be in that squad. I think that's the most you can ask for. So just trying to keep it going and see what happens.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Shaq, Gary's talked a couple times about how adding both you and Jacob into the squad has just really kind of balanced the team out and given you production from both sides. I'm just curious, from your perspective, how has having Jacob on the opposite flank kind of opened things up for you and affect how you're able to impact games?
Yeah, it just gives us another threat. Obviously there's a lot of attention that kind of goes down that side with Jacob, and I think it kind of leaves me kind of open on other sides, especially, when it's down his side and it kind of, switches play, and then the other side is, usually a lot open. So, obviously it gives a lot of different, dimensions to the team, a lot of width going forward, which, obviously will open up things going down the middle as well. So, yeah, it's been great. Obviously, a good addition to the team. Obviously, hopefully we can, keep on contributing to the team as well, and hopefully, make a nice run.
We'll wrap up today's session with Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Gary and Dax have both kind of given impassioned defenses of Hani's MVP candidacy so far. What is it like for you to be able to play with a guy like Hani? Obviously, we've already talked to multiple questions about your assist to him the other night. What is it like to play with a guy who seems to be just such a successful player for the level he's at?
Yeah, it's great. Obviously, he's one of those players that can, change a game. He's a great player, always looking for the goal, always looking in behind. Kind of makes it easier for us. We're trying not to rely on him too much, but obviously he's a great player. Also, I respect him a lot because he holds guys accountable. He's in your ear. If he feels like you can give more, he's always kind of, trying to push you to the limits that maybe you didn't know. So I respect him for that, and obviously, hopefully, the rest of us can do that as well, and together push the group together.